An excerpt from Sem Bellwether's Notes on the Imber Conflict. It cannot be said that the streets of the great city of Coronatus are ever truly empty, not especially in these war-torn days of refuge, but at night, in the Shade District, when the 5 moons rise and the ferocious heat of the day begins to subside. This is when the grand metropolis truly comes alive. Walk the district's cobblestone streets under the glow of its fabulous array of colored lights, and you will come to know the city in a way unlike any other. It is a delight for the senses. The murmur of the crowd swells into a hum not unlike the call of those notorious cricket coyotes out in the dust, punctuated by the barks of the market vendors who have just begun to hawk their wares from stalls on every corner. Let your eyes alight with the bright hues of the Coronatus fashionable, who use the winding roads of the Shade District as their runways. Trace that mosaic pattern on the ponchos for sale, which is the distinct style of the region. Smell the spicy sweet aroma of the roasted jadek, the plump grubs hanging on display from the vendor carts, or the pungent smoke of drugged incenses dispensed from dimly glowing half-orbs, which will make one dream of the stars and the spaces in between. You can spend 1,000 nights in the Shade District, that neighborhood protected eternally from Imber's harsh sun by the great shadow of the city's interstellar lighthouse, and never find yourself having the same evening twice. But even in this garden, safe behind the city's walls, you cannot escape the conflict that rages outside. Here, amidst the murmur of the crowd and the music of the street bands, the repetitive chant of Concordat missionaries who walk these lanes looking for converts. Watch out from any corner long enough, and see Commonwealth soldiers on leave, still in their standard-issue boots and fresh haircuts, stalking the streets in search of a fight. Smell that gun smoke and the coppery scent of spilled blood in those places where the ever-simmering tension of the city has boiled over yet again, spurred on by cheap booze and a heat that not even the deep night can quell. Trace your hands on an alley wall and come back with still wet paint from the drying mark of ring graffiti. An incitement to revolution against all the worst aspects of this place. You can find all of Coronatus here in the Shade District, and more. You can become lost in it as well. Howdy, and welcome to Risky Standard, an actual play podcast featuring a rowdy group of best friends playing tabletop role-playing games together. I'm your host, GM, Mitch Broesder. You can find me on Twitter at MagnesiumB, and you can find the show on Twitter at Standard Risky. With me today, I've got Pete Loftus.
That's right, I'm Pete. I'm playing as Ace Pilot, Rhodes Rampart as always.
And we've also got Malcolm Hall.
Hey, Malcolm Hall here. Today I'll be playing Desmond, no last name, and we're basically the same guy.
And we've also, of course, got Timothy Manns with us today.
Since we're talking about who we're playing, you guessed it. I'm coming back at you, shooting straight from the hip. Carta's back in the game. This time around, me.
As always, until we're not, we are continuing our game of Beam Saber by Austin Ramsey. You can find Beam Saber over on Austin's itch.io page. Pretty exciting Beam Saber week for us here. We just got at my household, the Beam Saber physical printing, the Kickstarter copy, and it is a real beauty of a book. And at the moment that we're talking, which is going to be about probably a month from
September, beginning of September.
Yeah, probably sometime in September when you're hearing it. But at this moment, in the last days of August, there are still some hard copies of Beam Saber, available on Indie Press Revolution. Available on Indie Press Revolution, and I believe also There will be print-to-demand copies coming sooner than not. So if those are not available on IPR, keep your eyes peeled for a little print-on-demand and get yourself a copy. It's a real handsome book. I'll tell you that. And with all that said, tonight we are continuing our game of Beam Saber. We last left off our previous session. We had started a new mission. So I'll give us like a little recap, talk about where we left off, and then I'd kind of like to just get rolling right into it. Last you met with Troubadour, you were told that a Grenfield executive named Sellers Montag is in possession of data that might lead you to the location of the missing scientist Harlow Shellspade, whose data cache you stole in our first mission, and which you have not yet been able to decrypt, which is why you're trying to find this scientist. And so your mission tonight is to follow Sellers Montag to the Lost Crown Saloon, which is the one location where he will be without his usual security detail. Retrieve his personal network device, sort of his Palm Pilot, his personal computer that contains sensitive Grenfield data. And that's your primary objective. Your secondary objective is, if possible, retrieve that personal network device, copy the information available on it with an apparatus hacking unit, and then return it to Sellers Montag, all without him having become aware of the operation. And so the way that you all decided to tackle this mission is that you decided to enter Rhodes as a contestant in something called the Diadem Royale, which is a big exhibition match that's taking place at the Lost Crown Saloon of a game called Foray, a sort of holographic tactical mech simulator that is popular here on Ember. And so, yeah, as part of your engagement role, you submitted Rhodes' entry into this tournament, kind of banking on his newfound, or his newly rekindled, rather, renown as an ace pilot for the ring, using the help of your friendly local fixer, the Vodyanoi Books Serac. The owner of the Lost Crown Saloon, the crime kingpin known as Rebus Actual, agreed. And so Rhodes has been granted entry to the Lost Crown tonight as a combatant in a game of Foray for the Diadem Royale. And for that engagement roll, you guys rolled not just 1-6, but 2. What would be a critical success on any other roll. So you'll be starting tonight's mission in a controlled situation. So that's kind of like the lay of the land. I think we can kind of move right into it. I do kind of want to, I think, there's like maybe a little thing that happens here in the time before, or the time in between you arranging this invite with books and the actual launch of the mission, which is that at some point, I think it's probably when Rhodes is working at the scrapyard, where we've kind of established Rhodes kind of works as kind of a cover job during the day, right?
Yeah, that's like the day job. I think it's like kind of funny since the low tower ended up being also a scrapyard, but it's a different scrapyard.
It's a different scrapyard, yeah.
This is my scrapyard away from scrapyard.
Well, Coronatus is a city full of them. There's an entire district, right, that is kind of full of these like scrapyards and these places that are dedicated to processing space junk and kind of the remnants of battlefields that kind of dot the basin during this ongoing conflict, and then also all of the weird kind of like first era stuff that gets pulled out of the ground and brought back to the city sometimes. So yeah, there's a few scrapyards, but I think it's at the scrapyard probably that a courier in kind of like a maroon outfit arrives with like a this like envelope that is sealed with like a big wax seal that has like a crown symbol on it. Right. It's very fine paper, a heavy stock, handwritten, I think. And this is a letter of invitation from Rebus Actual addressed to Rhodes Rampart. And, I don't have like the letter written point by point here, but I think generally what you get, right, is this kind of, sort of your offer of interest in participating in the Diadem Royale has been considered and accepted in light of your extraordinary talents and reputation as a pilot of armors. And, there's like some technical here. It's like, hey, here's the time that the thing's going to start. Here's when you should show up. It tells you that a suitable selection of Foray projectors, the kind of avatars that you pilot in this game will be provided. The pilot is welcome to bring their own, subject to inspection. They double down on this point that we heard last time, because one of the reasons we're doing it at this casino or this saloon, right, is that for the safety of all participants and attendees, weaponry is prohibited on the grounds of the Lost Crown Saloon. Mr. Rampart is invited to bring any necessary technical assistance and personal companions, subject to such previous restrictions. And there's like a little itinerary, you're told prior to the match that the Lost Crown requests that all competitors convene in a reserved section of the lounge where they have an opportunity to meet their fellow pilots and exchange greetings with a handful of Lost Crown VIPs who have generously donated for the opportunity. Afterwards, there'll be a final chance to review your technical setups before the audience assembles in the arena for the match proper. And I think there's like one final note here, which is that while there are competitors and guests from a variety of political perspectives, the Lost Crown's reputation as a neutral place celebrating joy and games of chance is of the utmost importance. Each guest is expected to conduct themselves in a manner that maintains such an atmosphere.
Yeah, I think Rhodes like maybe flips over the, parchment envelope in his hands, where I'm just like, so it really worked, huh? And I think at that point he would, I'd send a message out like to Utah or something, like a voice note or a text, whatever it is, like in this thing that just says, Utah, we're going into town. I'm going to need a ride. Wear something nice.
Oh, you're bringing Utah with you?
I think we're gonna roll up with like an entourage. Like I'm thinking this is like some sort of like vehicle entry. In my mind, the Foray players are like arriving, like it's a Oscars event, where it's like the car rolls up, like you bust out with a bunch of people, and like if someone's gonna be driving that limousine, it's Utah Alexander.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, let's cut to it. Right?
Is he gonna come in, or is he like?
No,
thank you for driving, but you get to stay out here. But
there's an open bar. You have 3 drink tickets.
Yeah, I mean, unless there are any questions or any last minute things here, I think, we can just cut to the action. We can start this mission.
Well, I guess without getting too much in our heads about it, I just want to know, obviously, Rhodes is going in as player. Des, what is Des's persona, just so we know what everyone's doing? Just
cultural liaison.
Ooh,
perfect.
Beautiful word
on
that.
Cultural liaison.
That's fucking choice.
Okay, and I think Carta's going to go in as press. I'm writing a story on this. Trying to tap into cash in on the renewal of interest in this hero of the stories. Sem Bellwether's star rising again.
You're writing for the Sedge Free Bellwether Press, like that's too on the nose, but the Sedge Sentinel.
Sedge Sentinel sounds great to me.
I don't know. You guys got a cool newspaper?
Sedge Sentinel sounds great, and I'm going to surprise myself with what my name's going to be when I need to say it to someone.
Love it.
Okay, so let's so Utah is like your chauffeur. He's driving, like bringing you there in a vehicle of some sort.
Yes.
Okay, I like that. And you've kind of nailed the tone, because it is, to set it up, right? We saw it last time, but to revisit it again, the Lost Crown Saloon is this huge building. It covers like a city block. It used to be an old Chiropteran armory that has since been, converted into this kind of massive, we're using the word saloon, but I think really I'm drawing my mind here to like, Vegas casinos in a way. Right. It is this kind of like the largest saloon in all of Coronatus, maybe in all of the basin, probably. It is this kind of huge vice den. And it has a front entrance that you went through last time, but this time you're brought to the rear entrance, which is the VIP entrance. And it is this like big marble staircase, that I think it has had a red carpet laid down up it today, right? There are, these like luxury hover vehicles arriving and guests coming out and going up, and they present, most of them are presenting these large gold coins with a crown embossed on them, which is the kind of like the symbol that belongs to VIP members of the Lily Pad Lounge and the Lost Crown Saloon. And other folks are presenting these kind of like formal paper invitations like Rhodes has. There are these guards in these maroon suits. I think maroon is kind of like the color of the service workers here at the Lily Pad Lounge and the Lost Crown Saloon. And there's like like glitz and glamour, right? I imagine there is probably press. There is I think, some members of like the Coronatus, papers of record. The Diadem Royale, this exhibition match that Rebus Actual is putting on is kind of a big to-do, right? It's a social function. There are, I think, Coronatus socialites showing up for this. There are council people arriving in the cornflower blue cassocks that we saw Desmond's newly revealed sister in last session. And so, give it to me. Like, what does the arrival of Rhodes and his entourage look like?
Let's talk fits for a second, because I think that's a big part of this. And I got mine down. Do you guys have any outfit changes? I mean, I think this is a big, to do. And honestly, I think touches a little bit of pride for Rhodes. So I think there's probably some scene here of, in the armoire, setting up, and I think Rhodes is wearing like a general's trench, from I think the old days of the Ring, the early days of the Ring. I think it's even got kind of pseudo epaulets, and I think it is sort of like a charcoal black, long kind of heavy coat, and I think it's even kind of decorated with some badges and silver stars on the breast. Beneath that, I think, is a bandolier, across the chest. Again, I don't think this is daily wear. This is more dress garb. I think he's wearing a tall kind of riding boot under pants, black. I think it's just shades of gray to black. And then on the back of the trench is the star within a circle of the Black Star constellation. And of course, he's wearing a cowboy hat here. Obviously, I think Rhodes here's stepped up attire outside of just kind of a desert wear. Yeah, do you guys want to go?
Yeah, I think that there is a Carta's gotten his hands on somewhat of its. I think he's kind of taking a little bit of a bit more removed, ironic sense of this Sem Bellwether Western kind of character. It's a nod to the history of cowboys while still, or drovers while still trying to be a cool urban writer, right? I mean, I guess I'm kind of in my mind Owen Wilson in Royal Tenenbaums. Kind of
yeah.
I'm a writer, so this is a cool thing that I'm,
Western chic.
Yeah, maybe he's borrowed a little bit of Rhodes' actual clothes, or they convinced Utah to lend him something, but it's a dressed up version of something that most people look at and go Jesus Christ, what a fucking asshole.
That's very funny.
Pearl snaps that are the tri-up shell or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I guess what is Utah pulling you up in? Is this a drover wagon? Is this kind of
No, that's too on the nose. I thought about it too. I don't have a super clear idea in my head. I mean, I think we probably don't have the luxe gold plated hover limo. What do you got, Malcolm? Any idea for vehicle?
A tri-op pulled wagon would be very funny.
It would be funny.
It's a fun contrast, right, to the glitz and glamour of everything else.
Yeah, it's very utilitarian. It's homespun.
Yeah, I was going to say, there's pulling a wagon. The other thought in my head is a World War II Jeep or something. It's a service vehicle.
Oh, that's also fun.
A lorry, essentially.
Yeah. Where you kind of just get to hop over the edge of it versus a door being open for you, or...
Okay, here's another thought. What if it's a dust cutter bikes? We're just rolling up on hover bikes. All right, let's stick with. I think
I like that. That's fun.
It is tight, right?
That's really fun. We all pull up on bikes, and we throw the keys to the valet,
and they crash them off screen because no one.
Yeah.
And so what is Desmond? What's Desmond rocking? What is Desmond's attire here?
I think Desmond is wearing a very simple yet dignified, chiropteran cape, as they are wont to do. A simple slack with a crease. It's a burnt umber in color, and a little hat with no brim.
Okay,
a skull cap.
I'm trying to think of a skull cap. Yes.
Yeah, you have a navy watch cap.
Exact. Yes. But it's made out of a fine linen. It's not woven.
Mm-hmm. Nice. And so the three of you pull up on these bikes and arriving right there is
Before we get to that, there's also, I think, like a sick scene of, sunset on Imber as like, the purple and oranges like flare in the background. Three of us, cape, trench, scully cap, I think, kind of like billowing behind right as you like pull up from Low Tower, taking the long way around.
Like I said, I think, as you're winding through the streets of the Shade District, this kind of nightlife district where the Lost Crown is located, I think one of like the features of it is that like it's got this kind of like panoply of different colored streetlights. There's this kind of like you're moving through, like as you're racing down the streets, you're cast in like purples and then greens and then yellows and then reds, and there's this kind of like rainbow bridge effect moving through it almost.
Sick.
Love it. And so as we, I think, roll up here, what is is there an attendant, someone coming?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. This is, like I said, like an event, like I think a VIP, like the valets come over and, awkwardly try and like, I think they probably kind of like are walking these bikes. I don't know that they can like ride them off and guide them away. I think there is like an attendant, near the base of the stairs who is, kind of like politely asks for your invitation. It's probably a Lectorian. I think, one eyebrow kind of raised at your unusual appearance relative to, the fashion of Imber is definitely still oriented towards Western wear, but I think the kind of like semi-military regalia that like Rhodes is rocking is like a little out of place here. I think probably Carta looks maybe most at home amongst some of the folks here. So I think you're kind of, raising eyebrows a little bit. But yeah, I think he extends a hand and asks for your invitation.
Yeah, I think Rhodes kind of hands it over and says, like, I think you'll find all the affairs are in order. Will you be announcing our arrival then?
I think, he looks, he's, looking at the invitation, looking at you. This is Mr. Rampart, and these are your entourage. May I ask who we're looking at here tonight?
Well, they're very well capable of introducing themselves. You may ask them.
Also, as if it matters, Carta pulls out, press pass. Not that it means anything to them, but, just to make sure that they know that he's a legitimate member of the press corps with the Sedge Sentinel, Gall Teller. Gallteller. Gallteller.
Gallteller with the Sentinel Sedge. The Sedge Sentinel.
Sedge Sentinel.
And I think there's another attendant besides the guy who's taking the invitations who is like writing these down, and like he has an open book in his hands, right, and is writing names down and then like repeating it quietly into like an ear radio as he does so. And your other companion this evening?
Penn Gillette.
Oh shit! Yeah, I think maybe my brain was kind of on like Vegas things. I was like, Gall Teller. Wow, I had not even put that together, but yes, I think that's where my Luxor, New York.
Oh, you're Luxorian. Very nice.
Yes, my name is Siegfried. Siegfried Spendlove, cultural liaison for the syndicate of planets known as the Boundless Ring. And then, very, very to-do, I'm pulling off one finger by one finger my riding gloves.
Great.
Wiping the dust from my boots.
Yeah.
Siegfried Spendlove, cultural liaison to the ring.
Yes.
Very funny. Good. So let's talk a little bit of mechanics before we carry these guys up the stairs. As I said before, you are starting out in a controlled position because you rolled a critical success on your engagement roll last time. And as part of that, I'm also kind of saying, this first portion, right? These identities being let in. That's kind of like the first obstacle passed right away. But the next roll that happens will be in a controlled position, right? The high alert is not up yet in any way. You have controlled the situation. No one has maybe twigged, so it seems, to the fact that this is actually the first part of a mission. One thing I realized we should have done way before, but it just occurred to me as I was thinking about our outfits. We do need to know what load each pilot is carrying into this mission. And I think this is an interesting one because anything I think like
Oh,
Anything above like light, I think you can get in with fine. Heavy, there's absolutely gonna have to be a roll to get in with a heavy loadout and not be detected as carrying gear. Because the difference in loadout, as we've kind of covered before, right? A light load, basically, like you look like a regular person. You are not. You don't look like you're armed and ready for action. At a standard loadout, you look like a pilot. You look like you are ready to go for the battlefield, but not in a way that is like maybe necessarily immediately gives you away. But at a heavy loadout, you look like a soldier ready to go to war. So we should stay right now. What is the loadout that everyone is carrying?
I guess light.
Yeah, I guess
Seems
light
like the only way that we're not
too,
going to
yeah.
be giving ourselves out, unless going in medium, and we can just be like spin it in ways that they're not weapons. Like supplies, like bribes or documents, or.
Well, keep in mind that with light pilot gear, we get 2 extra load because of the smuggler's rigging ability.
That's true. Yeah, you have 2 extra load of
In tools
and supplies, I think, or is it? It's tools or gear. Yeah, so there are categories of item in the game. Just to be clear. So yeah, That is a good point. That's like a great time to use your new ability. You get 2 free load of tools or gear. So even if you choose a light, you have 2 extra load to play with than you did in previous missions.
Okay. Yeah. So light is how.
Yeah, I'm taking light.
Gonna have to be light for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So light then for everyone means that there's not like a question here, right? There's no like kind of like a secondary check. So with that done, your names are written in the book, and you can see this guy, the other attendant, kind of like hand to an ear for a moment and says, "Please go right on up. We're expecting you. Good luck in your match this evening, Mr. Rampart."
Luck's no question.
Cool. And then, like I said, you're going up this red carpet, up these marble stairs. There's these big arches, Like I said, I think the exterior of the armory is decorated in like these like streamers and flags around this kind of like sandstone structure. I imagine it's been like heavily like carved into, right? There are like reliefs, probably from like Chiropteran like history and culture, because this used to be a Chiropteran armory, right? So there's images of like bats, probably images of like the moons of Imber as well. I think kind of like occur on the outside exterior of this building.
Yeah, and I mean the pull for me in my head anyway is like the cities in Petra. It's like hewn into the stone, like deep relief. These, I don't know, like almost like some of the Greek ruins were like I'm imagining as we're walking through these hallways are like the reliefs of this like Chiropteran empire long past.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a good pull. And then it's up the stairs, through these doorways, and you're into kind of like a long corridor that I think kind of terminates at the end with like banks of elevators. But before the entrance to those elevators, there are a few more of these attendants in these maroon uniforms. But I think you can tell stepping in through the doors, the guys in here are all slightly bigger guys, right? There's a little bit of a security apparatus here. And there is also this large, I think it's been decorated, right? There's this large metal archway that is lined with, I think, these kind of like circular ocular sensors. And as I think, the guests, there are a few guests ahead of you who are already lined up, and, guests are let in through like one at a time. And as they pass through, these sensors sweep over whoever's stepping through with this kind of this brief emission of blue light. And this is a weapons detector.
Who's holding the equipment we got from the apparatus, the cloning tool?
That's a great question. I'd say it's 0 load. I'll give you that. It doesn't have it's 0 weight. You don't have to like mark it as like taking upload. But I would also say I don't think anyone has. We don't have to say for sure who has it yet if we don't want to.
Okay.
Because it was given to you specifically to be brought on this mission. It has been designed in such a way as to it will look like a personal network device, right? Mm-hmm. It looks like just like a Ring communication machine. It will not trigger these sensors. But what I will say here is that there doesn't have to be a roll at this moment, but by passing through the sensor without rolling now to sneak something in, any like future roll to have a weapon on you is going to require like some kind of flashback or some kind of fictional setup for how you have a weapon despite having gone through the sensor. Does that make sense?
Okay. Yeah.
So if somebody wants to try and fool it right now at the beginning, they can, but we can always flash back to like the thing that you did to fool it. But I think it is also, well, I mean, I don't want to say too much right here, but it's probably looking for weapons. It's not looking for tools per se, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's looking for like bombs, probably looking for guns, knives, the kinds of like immediately lethal things that they don't want on the grounds.
I'm coming in unarmed.
Yeah, I think I also am. I think coming in as a journalist, there are cameras I'm bringing in that are just regular cameras. Maybe?
Question mark?
And if I need to do a flashback to it.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely, of course.
I think the real question is anyone trying to smuggle a weapon
Like
in?
real, just direct weapon? No.
Cool.
If there's one person here who I would not put it past, are you trying to, Des? I
don't think so.
Okay.
I really can't see how I could get away with something like that in this position. I even went to check my character sheet because I feel like in other games I've played, there's been like, hidden weapon or whatever, but there's nothing like that.
Cool.
And for record, if anyone listening out there really wants to know what the cameras look like, he has, going in his gall, he has two, the Colorburst 100 Kodak and the Polaroid SX70. Those are kind of what they look like. So have fun looking at those.
Oh yeah, nice. That's the Polaroid SX70 is a great clunky piece of tech.
Clunky, but I kind of imagine that it in a way that like that it pops up maybe on the back of there. There's kind of like a low res like digital screen where you can get an idea of what the picture looks like, but not like a.
Hell yeah!
Cool. That's just for flavor. Anyone following along?
Those look dope. I love that. Yeah, that's like deeply also in line for my. Everyone should go look these up. Stop listening for a second. Look up these two cameras.
You don't even have to stop. You can just go over to our Discord.
Oh shit! Yeah.
We didn't mention it before, but by the time you're hearing this episode, we are launching a little Discord. So if folks want to come and hang out, chat about the show, look at some pictures of some cool camera inspirations that we're talking about, check the show notes for a link to the Discord.
Hit that Holotable channel where I am feverishly Googling all the stuff we talk about.
But yeah, these cameras are very much in line with just like my general idea of like the tech aesthetic for a lot of the world. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. This kind of like, real kind of like 50s through 70s idea of the future. And like what's technologically possible. Like that's real good. And so we'll flash back later if we need to. Each of you in turn is swept through these sensors without alarm. And then another attendant guides you to these like big, I think they're like the doors are this kind of like probably like gold doored elevators, right? They open and the inside of the elevators is like all mirrored surface, dark woods. And there is like an elevator attendant probably, right? And he says good evening to you. He pulls on the wheel and brings it to maybe just this little symbol of a lily pad on this wheel that is for the lounge. And then, effortlessly, smoothly, the elevator glides up. And a moment later, the doors open to reveal to you the interior of the lily pad lounge, the upper floors of the Lost Crown Saloon. As you enter the space from the elevators, I think, you're greeted with this enormous room, right? It's like a big space. With these vaulted ceilings too, like this big kind of dome-like ceiling, that kind of enhances just the perception of size. And I'm going to kind of like hit the broad notes and then zero in on specifics. But I think the first thing that we see, right, is like it's like all over. It is rich, dark, imported woods and velvet curtains. I think we haven't talked about a ton, but I just think in terms of thinking about the ecosystem of Ember is that there's not a lot of forest on Ember. A lot of like real like wood structure, like real wood has to be imported from off planet. And this place is full of it. A lot of the features, like, like the the curtain poles, like banisters, all these different things are all trimmed or gilded in orichalcum, right? They've got that kind of iridescent metallic sheen to them. The place just screams money. There is extensive plant life here. I think these like huge fern fronds all over. The atmosphere is kind of almost a little, not damp, but like you can feel this water in the air because the center of the room. I imagine it's a slightly circular shape. This entire room that you're in, and its entire center is. At there's like a dip here, almost kind of like a giant conversation pit kind of structure. And so the center of the room, there are all of these different tables and booths, and they're all organized in orbit around this gleaming orichalcum fountain at the very center that is also like rich with like verdant plant life and is swimming with like strange fish in its waters. And it's like a huge fountain. And again, it's just like the same way it's the fountain outside the Pillar Row, right? It is this just this incredible amount of water in a place where the resource is so rare.
Yeah, and there's on one wall, there's a really sick plant wall with like a pink neon sign that says "But first, Foray" in cursive.
The vibe in my mind is like a little bit.
Sorry, Mitch.
Yeah, you're good.
Coffees are $8.50.
Oh, for sure. That's like exactly the vibe, right? This is like, it's kind of meant to feel. I think also like the poll in my mind a little bit was like Victorian gentlemen's clubs, like the Diogenes Club from Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, totally.
Right. These like places of escape for like the upper crust. And then on the exterior, outside of this like little like kind of like not little, but I think this like kind of like I said, the social area is in the center. There's these tables. There are servers in these maroon uniforms coming to and fro. And then outside of that, kind of in a constellation outside it, there are tables for games. There are a few of these Foray tables similar to the ones that Rhodes played on when he was doing Recon. And then there's a lot more of them that I think are for dice games and card games. These kind of orbit around that. And I think on one far end of the room, there is a stage. And this stage, is where there is musical performance. I think there's like a kind of cleared out like dance floor in front of that. There is like a band on playing kind of like a nicer version of like these sort of like handheld theremins that we saw with the Drovers, right? They're up there playing. And then the other far end of the room, opposite the side of the stage, there is, I think, these like huge double doors, and like in orichalcum, like engraved above it is, the Diadem Arena, right? This is where the Foray game will be played tonight. Is in this big arena back there. And I think there's another floor above you. There's like a mezzanine above you, and there are staircases that lead up to this mezzanine. And in the mezzanine, I think there are velvet curtains drawn over entrances to private rooms, and then a few tables along the balconies there where, there are council people and socialites smoking and looking down, breathing deeply of drug bowls or drinking their, kelp cocktails, whatever it is they do here.
This has just got to also be a wildly different color palette than you just see anywhere else. That's what I feel is like striking.
Oh, totally.
It's
I'm imagining like rich, the rich dark woods is like
just
a
compared to
rarity
anything, how everything else in my mind is just vaguely dusty, kind of always,
And I'm jamming on that idea with Mitch is like, oh, it's wet in here. Like I bet the walls like have beaded like, condensation and it's not being collected, like
there's an excess of water here in a way that is
maybe there's even like a thin fog on the Foray field.
Ooh, absolutely a little bit of fog. Yeah, right. Like this, what is the thing that is in most like limited resource here, right? And that's the thing that is excess here for sure.
Luxury, yeah.
Mm. And it's dark in this place too. I think it's not like super brightly lit, of course. Every table feels like you're kind of sneaking away from the world and looking out at like what's happening. And like I said, there are socialites here. A person in this gown that like its material reflects a galactic nebula constantly shifting, chatting with like, a Coronatus council person. And, next to them, there is a fellow in like a nice suit who's got like a jagged scar across his face, right? It is gangsters and politicians and socialites, but it is all people with money, with something here for the most part.
Can I ask, is Thea here?
I think on a glance you don't see her, and I don't think that you would expect to, but who knows?
Well, Desmond's just curious. He's just looking around. I mean, he
Looking
does have a
around.
little fake mustache on, so maybe she wouldn't recognize him. But
if you wanted to like gather information to get like a vibe of like who's around, that would be like a fun first roll here.
let's do it.
Yeah. So what's the role here? What do you think that is? Sounds kind of like a survey to me, but I could see like a study also.
Yeah, oh, it's definitely survey.
Cool. So I think this is a gather information. I don't think there's danger in rolling this here yet, but I think this is like, right, you guys have just walked in, and this makes it, you're kind of just like scoping around, right? You're like looking around.
Yeah, look at like scanning the boxes for
Yeah.
notable faces.
All right. 4.
So on a 4, that's good but not great information. First thing I'll tell you, Thea is not here.
Okay, good.
This is not her scene, and so she is not here. She's not in this room at all. There are a number of Coronatus Council people, though, in varying, shades of blue to indicate their different ranks. The cornflower blue, I think, is like the junior council person. Maybe there's like a richer cerulean that is kind of like senior council members, and you're seeing both of those colors reflected here.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, you get a sense of, these crowds intermingle, but there are also little clusters often, right? Like you can see, like over here is kind of where a lot of like the politicians are at, and then over here are a lot of the musicians or like the socialites, and then maybe there are some like artists. You can kind of tell they're wearing a little bit more avant-garde outfits. These folks who are sort of wealthy artists or who have wealthy patrons who have given them an invitation here, right? You need like a certain cultural element to really make the place feel alive in the way that you want.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe it's like the three of us are taking stock. Sorry, was that the end of like the?
I was going to give you one more thing here.
Yeah.
Which is like an actionable thing, which is that I think that down in this, where is it at? Is it in the conversation? Yeah, so I think, I know it's up in the balcony. You see up on the balcony, there are a few people kind of gathering where the curtains have been drawn aside for one of the larger private rooms upstairs. And I think you can see kind of hanging out on the balcony, looking around with a group of a handful of other people who are kind of slowly starting to filter into this private room behind them. But on that balcony is Sellers Montag. You recognize his face. I described him as kind of like a sharp goatee. He is kind of leaning, looking out. I think he is wearing this like rich purple suit that has been embroidered with what looks like, I don't know how they spun it this way, but like orichalcum thread, pearl snaps, also made of the triops albalone, wearing, I think, a purple cowboy hat that has like the same kind of orichalcum stitching along its edges. And I think like a triops sigil with like the Grenfield logo on the front of the hat, which I think I've described before as like a surveyor's compass is kind of like the Grenfield logo. He is leaning on this balcony, looking down around at the crowd below. And I think you can kind of guess, based on his position, the position of people around him, upstairs in that private room is where this like VIP meet and greet with the players is going to happen soon. But it's kind of not been set. It's getting set up now. It hasn't quite started yet. And I think on a 4 is not a 6, but I'll give you one more thing, which is that there is someone else standing next to Sellers Montag. And this person does not look pleased to be here. It's hard to tell because this is a synthetic person. This is a robotic person who is very large, right? Standing like a foot over Sellers Montag, who's like an average sized guy with like a broad shoulders. And the synthetic person is wearing a kind of like very simple brown suit, kind of big barrel chested body, like a small, almost featureless ground little ray head with like 2 large black eyes, like ocular sensors. I think he's wearing like a flat cap, right? Like a little driver's cap. This person has all four of their arms crossed over their chest and torso. They are standing near Sellers Montag, and they are just scanning, like clocking everyone who walks nearby. And so I think, this is a leap of intuition here, is that while security details and weapons are not allowed, it does seem like Sellers Montag might have a bodyguard with him.
So I think as we kind of like step in, settling in, like I think, the din of the room is sort of filling like perception, right? Like, when you walk into like a party and it's just like, you're in a party now. We're kind of like shrouded in that a little bit. I think there's the three of us, Utah, maybe, I don't even know if Utah came, but anyway.
I think Utah did not come in.
Yeah. Since we went on the bikes, we don't need him. But we walk in here. I think Rhodes would like turn to the two and say, all right, fellas, taking a look around, kind of nod and point. That's him up there. It's dressed like a damn clown in the purple, but that's your mark. There's a meet and greet. A few minutes. Why don't you walk me up there? We'll get acquainted, maybe clink some glasses together, and then it's time to get serious. I think we've maybe got, I'm going to call it at 90 minutes before this gets probably to the logical endpoint of a Foray match, which gives you an opportunity. I got a couple cards up my sleeve, but security detail looks a bit tighter than I thought. So it's time to get creative.
I think I have an idea.
I figured you would.
Everyone likes to talk when they got a microphone up to their mouth.
Well, you got a microphone on your throat, and if things get hot, you're going to have to call it in. And then I guess we maybe like kind of make our way through the room. Like,
as you begin to walk towards the staircase that will lead you up to the VIP meet and greet area, where the other Foray players are being gathered alongside this small group of very generous donors to the Lost Crown Saloon. One of the attendants in a maroon uniform approaches you and addresses you, Rhodes. Excuse me, Mr. Rampart. Before the meet and greet, our gracious host, Rebus Actual, would like to have a brief word with you upstairs.
It's general will do, but I'm happy to meet. By all means, I'm here on his invitation.
And then this guy, looks to the other two of you and says, General Rampart's entourage, feel free to make your way up. We'll be back shortly, I've been assured by Mr. Actual himself. And, he kind of politely, I think, but firmly kind of steps in a way that almost separates Rhodes from the other two and directs you towards, I think there's a bank of these elevators that you just came from. I think there is one on the far end that is, has guards stationed right in front of it, right? Two of these big guys in like these security uniforms. If you'll please follow me, we can meet with Mr. Actual shortly. So this attendant leads you away, Rhodes, to this single guarded elevator at the far end of the banks. Two guards, impassive, slightly step aside to allow you two to approach the elevator, and this attendant reaches into his vest and draws out like a long, like an actual key.
Yeah, I think as he's reaching into his vest, Rhodes reaches for the belt, but we're unarmed here.
Yeah. He draws out a long and actual key and inserts it into like a slot on the elevator and turns it. And then the doors slide open. And it's a large elevator. It could fit, a party of people and some larger, individuals, accommodating to a wide variety of the different kinds of species that we see on Ember. Which is also maybe a note I didn't hit before. I think it's worth mentioning. I think you get a really big variety here, right? In terms of the interstellar spectrum of life. I think we're seeing a ton of different alien species here tonight in the Lost Crown Saloon. But the elevator, opens, and the attendant kind of steps aside and gestures and says, "Go right ahead, General. Mr. Actual will be waiting for you."
It's just us. When the doors open, I'm going up the elevator.
Yeah, there's no one else in the elevator when it opens.
Okay. I think Rhodes is a little paranoid at the moment. This is kind of a weird diversion, and he's on his own. Anything amiss about the elevator?
I think one thing you can see, just kind of glancing in, there don't appear to be any buttons whatsoever in it. It is just a featureless interior besides the mirroring.
All right, I'll just step in.
And stepping in, you can see for sure there are not any controls whatsoever in this elevator. It is blank surface. And then the doors close and the elevator, quietly hums as it starts to ascend. And let's, as you're ascending, let's cut back to the other two. Rhodes has just kind of been diverted away from the mission. But you two have been invited to continue on your way to the VIP meet and greet. So what are Gall, Teller, and Siegfried Spenlove doing?
Well, I got a story I got to tell, so I gotta meet the people who are gonna make it easy to help me paint the picture for the readers. So I'm gonna go out there and hobnob as best as I can.
You gonna like do some interviews?
Yeah, do some interviews. Like I said, people like to talk when there's a microphone up to their mouth, and they tend to do a lot more when you offer to take their picture. So, kind of banking out the fact that a lot of the society might really enjoy that. Oh, I could be the feature of this story. Rope them in with the intrigue of Rhodes Rampart being a part of this. See what people know. Rubbing the elbows.
So you guys are heading up to the VIP area? Is that the plan?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So yeah, you make your way. There's a staircase that leads up to this mezzanine, and then you're passing by. Like I said, there are these other like curtained off private rooms. I think like there are people at these tables, drinking, doing various drugs. Right, these drug bowls of incense are kind of like wafting in the air. As you come around, I think you see Sellers Montag kind of lift off his elbows from the balcony and turn around and start to head into this larger private room whose curtains have been opened, followed immediately by this larger robotic man. And as you get closer to that entrance, from out of that room, a woman appears. She's wearing I imagine like maroon blazer and like pencil skirt. She's a Victorian woman, like shorter horns, and I think kind of like red hair and a bob. I think she has some kind of like, not a clipboard. It is like some kind of like mechanical tablet, right? And like with like keys on it that she's occasionally entering it into. And as you two approach, she kind of moves to intercept you. And she says, excuse me, Elodia Marin, I believe you are. And she glances down, at the like, there's like a screen across the strip across the top of this thing that's like constantly rotating and changing what it's displaying. Cultural liaison Siegfried Spenlove from the Boundless String.
Yes, present.
Welcome, sir. Head right in. We're very happy to have you as a guest of our esteemed competitor. All drinks and provisions are, of course, provided gratis on the house. We hope you enjoy yourselves. The competitors are just gathering now. Feel free to introduce yourselves. And then she turns to you, Carta.
Mm-hmm.
I believe Gall Teller of the Sedge Sentinel. Is that correct?
Yeah, Gall Teller, Sedge Sentinel. You have really got a beautiful place here. You know what? The people are going to eat this up. Let's hope that those free drinks you were talking about don't turn this journalism a little yellow. I don't want to be biased, but no, it's great to be here. Thank you so much.
Of course. You're both, as friends of our esteemed competitor, you'll be joining us for the full VIP experience tonight and watching the game from Mr. Actual's personal viewing platform. And I think she, looks at you, Gall. She says, of course, while you are very welcome to interview anyone who is willing to discuss the ceremony tonight, the events, the tournament, we do ask that you do not intrude on the atmosphere of enjoyment of our fellow guests or disrupt the intensity of preparations that our competitors are undertaking.
Of course not. I've made my career, respecting those who are willing to talk to me and telling just the stories they want me to tell. So what I got here into the camera stays with me, and don't worry, it's going to be no problems there.
Of course, I'm quite certain. And she steps aside to allow you two both entrance into this private lounge. And, to set it up right, I think there's like a big, this is another large circular room. I think like lots of I think there's a lot of chairs. I think there's like a lot of like seating cushions instead, right? I think that there are kind of like 6 tables arranged along the edge of the room. And it has been structured such that like each of the competitors is sitting, or standing near one of the tables that I think has their projector on it, right? Emitting like the little holographic projection of the machine they're going to be piloting tonight.
Let me go one step further where it's like Iron Chef. There's like a big banner printed, like under these tables, or like, like I'm imagining like a drape, right? Like over each one of these.
Oh yeah, there's like a tabard like hanging out the wall behind each of them with like a
medieval
depiction.
jousting tournament. Like it's literally just your tent and your.
We're under the like black banner.
Yes. Yeah, each person has like a custom-made banner hanging behind their table. They have the projector of their mech on the table, of their armor. And they're, each competitor is there. And then there are probably about like 15 to 20 other people in the room as well. These are like the other VIPs and their attendees. And then past that, there's like another 10 or 12 people that are like the folks working for the house, right? In their maroon uniforms, they are moving quietly and efficiently, handing out drinks and hors d'oeuvres and, meeting the needs of folks. And yes, there's this like cluster, of people at the center of the room who are kind of chatting. They're taking the drinks from the servers. They're, the room is just warming up, right? People have just kind of come in here. And, I think this woman who brought you in, Elodia Marin, is kind of checking in on a handful of these VIPs. Some of them are starting to move towards the individual tables with the competitors to meet the competitors they are interested in meeting with tonight. Yeah, just to run it down again, kind of along the edge of this room, right? There are 5 of the 6 competitors here. We know one of them is currently on his way up to meet with Rebus Actual before they come down. But, on the far left, we have a young blonde Lectorian woman in kind of a like Commonwealth military uniform. This is Sunder Fairside. She's a Lectorian marksman. I think the thing you heard last time was that she was considered by some to be the best marksman in all of Ember. And then on the next table down, there is Perel Threetide. And she is an alien species called a Gratch. I don't think we've seen them before. I imagine she has like incredibly like slender and like a very long neck, like a foot long neck, almost like kind of insectile a little bit. I think like 4 eyes, and she is like a full-time Foray player. And on the table next to her model is a cacophony unit. It's a squat thing laid down with like rocket launchers and missile launchers, just like weighted down with weapons, no arms, just legs. And continuing along the edge of the room, we have Jorn Fullschrift. This is a Lectorian man who has been heavily cybernetically augmented. I think we can see like he's got like a kind of like targeting apparatus kind of built into like a portion of his face. I think you can see like connective ports along the back of his neck. And then I think that there is an empty space with the black banner where we know that Rhodes will be set up to meet and greet shortly. Closing the circle, there's the table on next to that with a banner featuring the symbol of the 7-spoked wheel is Palace again. They are a human, a Concordat layperson, and I think they are dressed in just incredibly an incredibly simple, like white cotton tunic. A very unassuming kind of outfit. And their mech, their armor on the table, the projector of it is a modified version of the Caesura units that we saw in the last mission. I think it's like sort of standing there holding a large sword like pressed into the ground before it. And then on the far end of the room, opposite Sunder Fairside, is a Chiropteran man. And this is Cormac Kalis. I imagine he is wearing, kind of like something not that dissimilar to Des, kind of like a formal cloak. But Des, I think you spot this I assume you were walking in, doing your normal, just like, hey, what's going on in this room? He's, wearing this black cloak that has kind of like a brooch clasping it. And it's got a symbol that I don't think you recognize, but that probably catches your eye right away, right? The symbol on this brooch, kind of a stylized black bat on a white circular background, like a black bat against a moon, right? It's kind of the stylization of it. There is an X, a white X, right? Over one place on the eye of the bat.
Uh-oh.
I don't think you recognize the symbol ever, but we do know, I think we've discussed it before, that the former leader of the Belfry Boys, Salvation Still, is often known as the One-Eyed Bat. And so what connection there is there? I don't know.
Is that Salvation?
It is not Salvation. This is Cormac Kalis. You don't recognize this man.
Okay,
But
I thought maybe there was like a
your heart races for a moment.
My heart
right?
races for a moment, making the connection. The Kill Bill siren music starts playing.
I love it. But yeah, right. You're
Love the like Tarantino like tight cut, like realizing one-eyed like bat like eye patch as
superimposed
Desmond's hair
Salvation's
stands
face
up
over that. Yeah.
This is not Salvation Still. This is not the former leader of the Belfry Boys. But it's funny that someone would have a weird bat symbol with a one-eyed bat as the logo.
Small world.
Probably just a coincidence.
Probably. But yes, that is just kind of like the general layout of the room. Like I said, there's most of the people, including Sellers, I think are kind of like loosely clustered in the center of the room, just starting their first drink, maybe snacking on some hors d'oeuvres. A few of the most like socially adventurous folks are starting to like go talk to the Foray pilots they're most interested in. But I don't know. What are you two doing? What's your approach here?
I guess without making it look like I'm beeline directly to him, trying to get close to Sellers to, try to schmooze him up and get to talking in that circle. So I'm going to kind of go into that because I don't really need to spend any time talking to the other players since I'm here to focus on our dear Rhodes. So just kind of.
And what is your kind of, what's your intent here? Just so I can gauge if this is like a role or not yet, or what the move is.
Well, I guess I'm trying to be as kind of smooth journalist as I can, being like, maybe he walks up with a drink and he's like, I know everyone here cares about all these different players. I find it a bit more interesting who people have their money on. I think that says a little bit more than the play in itself. The players only got a little bit of pride to lose, but I've heard a lot of other people got money to lose, and I like to see where the money goes.
Okay.
That kind of thing,
I think that this is a role, right? And I think the role here is maybe to
not have it just be like who's the freak who's walking
By
up
the
to
way,
me?
where's all that money from?
Well, are you trying to strike up like a relationship or like a conversational interest with Sellers, right?
Right, yeah.
So let's make that a role, because I think that's more fun if we can, get things going. This is controlled. You're in a controlled situation.
Controlled, and I guess that would, let's see, I'm rolling.
I know what it sounds like to me, but I'm curious to think what you think you're rolling here.
Consort.
Yeah, I can see consort if you're,
or was sway what you were thinking?
Sway was what it sounded like to me, but I'm willing to hear out consort.
Okay. So consort, mingle with allies and acquaintances. I'd say that we can maybe qualify acquaintances just because we have all been invited into this upper echelon, this VIP room. So in that, whether we actually know each other or not, there's a built-in type of acquaintance to it.
And you're not trying to convince him to do something yet. You're just trying to
open him up, We've all had a kelp cocktail or two, maybe, and if he wants another one, maybe I can get it for him,
Sure. Yeah, I think that makes sense. This is controlled. I think this is standard effect to start with. Is Desmond helping you out here, or do you have different plans?
No, I think that I mean, I don't want to give away the whole, end game here, but I think that, it would be cool, like, to set up a situation where, like, I don't know, Carta's taking a picture of us, and that's how I could get close to him.
Right, I'm with you. I think that the more connections
is that what you're thinking? Yeah.
Sure. The more connections we have between us and people around, the more movement and
confusion,
fluidity between people is going to give us the time and space and moments we need.
The drinks are flowing, the drug balls are fuming.
So yeah, I think you come up and there's an introduction as we're going over like a food platter or something, kind of.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So what I'm actually going to do then, because this is fun enough, I think is I'm going to make a clock. which is like a 4-segment clock, I think, which is... I started Googling 4-segment clock, which is nothing. Yeah, I'm gonna make a 4-segment clock, which is like friends with sellers, right? And if you guys can fill this clock by like talking to him and persuading him, then when it is full, he will be comfortable enough with you that I think you can open up the opportunity for doing something like a photo op or something that'll like, because I think as you get close, right, as you start talking, and start bringing this up, I think that this robotic bodyguard does kind of like position himself in a way that like doesn't let you get right next to sellers, right? Is kind of like a kind of a buffer space between you two. Is this 4 segments or is this 6 segments?
I mean, I'd say 4.
4 is cool number. It's way cooler than 6.
4 sounds good.
Yeah, 4 it is. Yeah, I was just trying to think. This is the big mission plan, but also it's not that hard just to get him. It opens opportunity. It doesn't solve the mission just by
right.
Yeah,
it's just getting opportunities to have some wiggle room and whatever else.
Yeah, so that is a 4-segment clock. So this is the Friends with Sellers clock. It's 4 segments, and so you're saying consort here as you come over and you start talking with people, you start schmoozing a little bit. Desmond, you're helping here. You want to give us a little flavor of what that looks like?
I mean, I don't know how I can help. I don't know. I'm also there. It's a little bit less awkward walking up to a group of people when you have somebody else with you, I guess.
How does Desmond introduce himself to this kind of conglomeration of like socialites and politicians? In this group of people, right? There is. Let me look at my list here. In this conglomeration of people, right? There is. Let's say there's kind of this core group of 6 or 7 people. I think there's sellers. There is another chiropteran politician, right? In the cornflower blue, like junior member cassock. There's a Concordat cleric here as you walk up. This human woman, she is wearing these like beautiful purple robes, very Catholic, like embroidered with gold scripture from the Myriad Way on the hems. She's got like rings and like I think like a crown with the 7-spoked wheel in the center. This big like pendant that's filled with like a kind of a swirling quicksilvery substance, and she's carrying on. There's another chiropteran in this like sharp suit. I think on his lapel has that same stylized bat over the moon with an X on an eye logo. There's a few other people. There's like another Lectorian who's in this kind of like shabbier suit. And I think there's like I got a bunch of alien names here. There's like a Rhodonym. There's this guy with like a kind of a purple, almost like slug-like face with this like big kind of walrus tendril like mustache. His eyes are on stalks.
Love that. That's a cool guy.
Oh yeah.
This is Gentian Net, gambler, traveler.
How do you do?
He's from Space Savannah, Georgia.
Yeah, well, just Gentian Net. He's here to play some games on him, but make a little money before this thing goes belly up.
We did it, guys. We only made it 14 episodes without having a Southern character. We did it. We did it, guys.
Well, most people in this game are from Space Texas. This guy's from Space Louisiana.
Off-worlder.
Yeah. But yeah, so give me what is it? How does you're introducing yourselves? I think we got a little bit of how Gall Teller came in. What is?
I think that Siegfried. I think that Desmond knows that sometimes the best way to go in unnoticed is extra noticed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
being very loud and just acting as if like I absolutely do belong there.
You're supposed to be there.
I'm supposed to be there. So why would I be sneaking about? So I think that I'm going to come in kind of loud and boisterous with Carta by my side, I suppose, right? You're going to come in with me, or should I just go in and break the ice and then you come in? We're talking.
Well, I imagine we were both kind of going in at the same time.
Yeah.
I was at the table. You sweep in. Maybe I can be like, and of course, you have to know Siegfried.
Something like that. Yeah.
Trying to make introductions.
All right. So I think me and Carter are talking about this, and I'm kind of saying to you, like, is the accent working?
I love it.
You love it? Okay. I'll just And I walk up to this group of people and is like, nah, yes, what could you group of proprietarians and godbothers be talking about at this event such as this? I'm kidding, of course. Siegfried, Spendlove. Cultural liaison for the syndication of planets known as the Boundless Ring. How are you this evening? Hello, yes. You there, good sir, with the mustache. Hello, I have one as well. Very nice. You, madam, smashing hat. Just kind of doing that.
So take a stress to give Carta an extra dice on this roll. And
Let's roll.
Carta, do you want to push yourself here?
Do you know what? I think I am gonna push myself just because if quicker we can get in good with this, the better we're gonna be at buying the time when the game's on and all that. So yeah, I'm gonna push myself. I'll take 2 stress on that. And hopefully nothing else bad will happen.
All right, so that is 3 dice total that you were rolling.
All right, 3d6. Let's go. 5, 4, and a 1.
All right, that's a 5. That is a partial success. So I think this is going to be, I'm just going to reduce the effect level here. So instead of standard effect, this is going to be a limited effect.
Okay.
Which is, maybe it's just because you're in the bigger group right now, it's harder for you to get like a one-on-one engagement with sellers. Everyone's attention is kind of shifting as people are introducing themselves, and so you get this, like we got Genty and Net, and you get a few of these other people are kind of going around introducing themselves. So we're going to click forward 1 segment on that clock. So it is now 1 out of 4 because you don't make yourselves out as outcasts, right? Mm-hmm. But you're also, you're just kind of, the night's just starting, so you're just kind of getting that first like warm up of introduction. And so you got Genty and Ned who's here, and he's, well, I don't usually talk with the press, but I do have some words to say about what's happening on this here planet and what we could do to fix this whole mess.
Finally, a man with a plan. I would love to hear this. This is kind of stuff that readers eat up. Fascinating.
And this is like when Sellers Montag kind of spits in and he's like, all right, listen. Net, I get it. You've made a lot of money off of this, but the Commonwealth's got a vision for what this planet could be. Yeah, I know what you do. You make your money and you get out, but we're building something up here. And he looks to you. You hear me, young man? Put that in your paper, whatever you communalists believe in. We've got a vision for developing Ember, not just subsisting. You should know that.
Well, looks around. Well, I'll raise a glass to a man with a vision.
And a few of the other people introduce themselves, right? This politician is Ignace Trigat, and this Chiropteran does introduce himself. This is Lambeau Rador, but he kind of shies away from you, Carta, once he realizes you're like press, right? And this Concordat woman introduces herself as Almuric Yet, and she also is she actually, I think, looks a little nervous. She looks a little like uncertain being here. Like she's kind of out of her comfort zone. Maybe it's she is a cleric. She introduces herself, and this is part of the humanitarian work of the Myriad Way is meeting all of the people of Ember and understanding their situation and how best to guide them towards the word of the builder. And so we get this kind of like round table introduction to these people. And I think that, the conversation is flowing and there is like a little bit like light debate here about, what the future of Ember looks like. But it's all kind of like at a remove, you know what I mean? Like everyone here has enough power that they don't necessarily, that they feel comfortable kind of being like, well, actually, I think it should be like this. But no one's taking like hard political stances per se. They're trying to keep it light. And so while that's happening, I would like to bring the camera back to the elevator that Rhodes is in alone that has just reached the top of the building. And so Rhodes, back to you. The like unmarked elevator you're in slows and then comes to a stop. And the doors open and they open to the outside world. You are on the rooftop of the Royal Crown Saloon, or the Lost Crown Saloon. It's nighttime. Sorry, Keith's raising his hands as if there's
squinting.
A bright light.
Yeah, like it's bright light. It's now nighttime. The 5 moons are.
There are
all
5
shining.
moons. Yeah, I was going to say.
But it is night. The moons have risen. It's a classic full moon night here on Imber. And yeah, you are on the roof. You are outside, but it's almost like you have stepped into like a forest. You are in this expansive, beautiful garden, and there is a water feature, like a river flowing through it across this roof. And there are these, alien trees not from Imber. They're the kind of like, they call to mind like willows, right? Hanging low, aquatic features. There are ferns. There is like a gentle music, some kind of like choral singing that's coming from like nowhere, but also just kind of always right around you, kind of ambient. Across the way on the far end of the roof. Remember, this is like a big building, right? It's like this building covers most of a block. So it is large. I'm thinking kind of definitely of kind of gardens in the Japanese style, in terms of like the aesthetic of this place. And yeah, there are some lights here, but I think they are probably like paper lanterns or something, very soft light. There's like a real ambiance.
They're like garden lights.
Exactly. Yeah, and you are not alone. Like I said, on the far end of this rooftop, I was starting to say, there is like this large manor house, right? There's an entire like mansion on the top of this roof on the other side. But that's on the far side, past this like kind of forested garden area with like these bridges going over this stream that winds back and forth through. But before all of that, standing in front of you are two individuals. First of them is a Vaginoi. It is one of these kind of like amphibious people of the same species that we saw last session with Books Sirac. But whereas Books was like squat with this kind of mottled skin, this person is like tall. They are like, like 6 foot something, like a large, taller person with like, and his skin is like this kind of seafoam green, very smooth. He's more frog than toad. And I imagine that he is wearing kind of these like formal robes that are, I think, like a soft yellow in color. My like visual like pull here is in Andor, the husband, Perrin, these kind of like these like colorful robes with like tunics underneath that he wears. I think that's kind of like the vibe here. This is what this person is wearing.
Stately, kind of ornate.
Stately, yeah. Very simple, right? Kind of almost a minimalistic like aesthetic, but like clean lines.
Is it the maroon of the lily pad?
No, it is like a pale yellow instead.
Oh, right.
The maroon is for the service class here.
Gotcha.
You wouldn't find Rebus Actual wearing that. And he would look big, right? Compared to having just seen Books, who is this like squat, smaller Vaginoi. Except that the other person on this roof, in a similar outfit, but in all black and white, standing probably close to 9 feet tall, is, and this is another sort of alien species we haven't seen before, perhaps. There is a Kylaxian. This is a person whose entire body appears to be made out of like rough-hewn stone, whose eyes blaze like gems in their sockets, who looks like what if an avalanche became a person? Kylaxian, she shifts ever so slightly, and as she does, there is like a grating sound of stone when she moves. But she shifts slightly to kind of almost gesture towards this frogman, this Vaginoi, who then speaks, who says, "Greetings, General Rampart. My name is Rebus Actual. I am your host this evening. It is a pleasure to finally meet you in the flesh, as it were." And he steps forward and extends his hand.
Yes, in the flesh to some degree. I've heard your name many times. I think I've met some mutual friends of ours in passing, but it's a pleasure to meet you in person.
Yes, I've heard quite a bit about you. Read quite a bit as well. You've had a storied life. I'd love to hear more sometime, but I asked you up here for a reason. I was hoping we might have a short conversation before we go down to join the rest of our fellows and enjoy ourselves before it's time for tonight's main event. Is that all right?
Why don't you give me your pitch and I'll tell you if it's all right.
Take a walk with me. Let me show you the gardens.
They are quite beautiful.
You're in no danger here, I promise.
Certainly. And your friend?
River. And the Kylaxian, she says hello, but this is like a Chewbacca thing probably, right? Where when
Sure.
she speaks, it is just like the roar and rumble of stone.
I think Rhodes gives like a short, curt bow, or something. Like, I have no idea how to communicate, but let's walk then.
And as you walk, River stays there. She does not join you, right? And this is maybe the show of faith from Rebus Actual. And so you start walking, and I think, Rebus walks you over a bridge. There are beautiful, bioluminescent water lilies floating along the river that are just starting to bloom. And he's pointing them out, and he says, "We can keep this brief. Rhodes, may I call you Rhodes?"
Certainly.
If I may, I'd like to have an honest conversation with you. I think that we're not so different, you and I.
Rhodes doesn't laugh in game, I think.
Yeah, Rebus Actual does laugh when he says that. He knows that it's a funny thing to say. But we are two violent men in service to causes greater than ourselves.
Are we now?
There's two conversations we could have now. There's the polite, pleasant conversation where I am the gracious host of the Lost Crown Saloon, and you are an excited competitor in the premier Foray tournament of the year. And we exchange a few pleasantries, we go back downstairs, and nothing of substance has been said. Or, if you'd allow it, we might speak honestly and briefly, and go back downstairs with both of our minds more at ease.
I owe you a thanks. Your invitation's very gracious. Our likes not often invited, certainly to Ember's high society, nor the platform on which to perform. And with that comes a great deal of trust.
Trust.
Precisely. I'm told this is a weapons-free zone, and I'm told something of a neutral ground in a highly political city. I came in unsure of what to expect, but thus far, your invitation has been very cordial, so I'm curious what you have for me now.
He steeples his hands in front of himself and kind of faces. I think you two are standing on the bridge, right? And now it's you two standing on the bridge facing each other, highlighted by one of the moons. And he says, "I believe that you are here on a job, or maybe a mission. Maybe that makes more sense for your kind, Rhodes. And I want to ask you, are you here to rob me tonight?"
Of course not.
And he looks at you seriously for a moment. And it's like, I think you see for a second, right? He's been cordial. He's been kind of charming, genteel. And for a second, anger flashes across his face, and then it's tamped down. "I'm not asking you as a joke. Are you here to rob me tonight?"
If we were here to rob you, I wouldn't be on the roof walking at your side. And secondly, we've no use. We fight for things greater than money.
Fair enough. Then whatever you are here for, I don't need to know. And I'd rather, for reasons of plausible deniability, you did not tell me.
I had no intention.
Understand that, as you said, the Lost Crown Saloon has a certain reputation as a neutral place, as a place that is free of weapons because it offers a guarantee of safety. Whatever you are here to do, I ask that you do it quietly, you do it without making a mess of my saloon, and that when you are done doing it and when you leave, no one here feels any the wiser that it happened. Is that a reasonable ask? Am I overstepping my bounds? I am a man who keeps close track of my debts, and as you say, you owe me one.
Trust's a funny thing. People also say trust is for children and dogs.
Do they say that?
That's a phrase.
Is that really a phrase? That's a terrible phrase.
I think, boy, it's a tough one. Really getting my bluff called out here.
I mean, you could always be like, this is a gambling thing, like double down if we're trusting and you want things to go. And we all have our purposes,
I mean,
to keep that trust going.
Rebus, we're both men of Ember. What was your intent in the invitation?
I was interested.
Fair enough. I, of course, am not a competitor in the same way these other players of games are. So, certainly, I don't want to cause trouble here. I'm grateful for the invitation, and I should hope to be invited back.
I will take that to mean that we are in accord, then.
I hope we can continue to build on our relationship. The ring's something of a dirty word here on Coronatus.
I have a certain affection for your sort. Any system left too stable for too long, it removes the space of opportunity that I like to operate in. And the ring is, if nothing else, a destabilizing element. If we are in accord, let us return to the floor. There are people awaiting your arrival. Folks would be rather keen to meet one of the ring's great heroes. Shall we?
A moment. I'll give you my word. I, as an entrant and combatant here, seek only the glory of the platform. It's a nice change of pace, of course, to exit the battlefield. I'll treat that with the same respect I would treat any foe or combatant crossing swords. You say we're not that different, but as I look across you, you're sitting on a throne surrounded by a pile of coin. What makes us similar?
Like I said, my good man, we are both violent men who work to violent ends in service to greater causes. Make no mistake, our causes are not the same, but I suspect in the way that no two weapons are all that dissimilar, you and I share many things in common.
Well, perhaps another conversation. Thank you, again, for your hospitality to me and my entourage. I hope that you find whatever it is you're looking for.
And I hope that you will relay the substance, if not the details of our conversation, to your entourage.
Yes, Rebus, I think we'll be friends.
Then let us go rejoin the others. And I think, he
whips out the big
leads you-
key.
Yeah. No, as you approach the elevator, it doesn't need a key for Rebus Actual. It just opens.
I think if Rhodes could sweat, there'd probably be perspiration.
Yeah.
Just you're not supposed to know that.
But yeah, I think you two and River, the three of you, enter the elevator, and it is sent quietly humming back down towards the Lily Pad Lounge.